Within the world of Resident Evil, there are a few organizations that are dedicated to taking down bioterrorists. Organizations like the BSAA, who are the soldiers that go out on the front lines to take on bio threats worldwide. The most notable members of this organization are, of course, Chris Redfield and Jill Valentine, though there are several members within this organization. Then, of course, we have the DSO, who are the government agents that are dedicated to taking on bio threats, typically within the United States, though some agents like Leon Kennedy and Sherry Birkin have gone outside of the states to take on bio threats, like in Resident Evil 6 when they went to China. And so we see these two organizations where we have the soldiers and the agents, but what if there was a third organization for the mercenaries and it was led by none other than Ada Wong? What if after the events of Resident Evil 4, after Ada betrays Wesker and takes off with the Amber, she decides to organize her own organization where she seeks out to gather individuals to be mercenaries in her group that are going to fight against bioterrorism rather than working for bioterrorists. And so through this, we could actually see a lot of past characters make a return. Characters like Carlos from Resident Evil 3, given that he was a mercenary at the time working for Umbrella, he would be a perfect candidate for Ada to go seek out and recruit to join his organization. So to see Carlos again would just be great. Another individual would be Billy. Even though he was not a mercenary, he does have military training and would be a very useful asset. Now, the one issue would be that he's technically supposed to be dead, so nobody should really know that he is even alive. So what they could maybe do is have it where Billy himself hears about Ada's organization somehow and seeks to find Ada and try and join it, since it wouldn't work for him to join the BSAA or the DSO because, again, he's supposed to be dead. So that would raise some questions if he just all of a sudden showed up. So to join Ada's mercenary group would be perfect for him. So that'd be really cool to see. And then, of course, Jake from Resident Evil 6 could resurface once again, given that at the end of that game, he is still a mercenary, but he's fighting for the greater good. So to join Ada's organization would really be a perfect role for him. And then someone else who could potentially join Ada in this organization that she would establish would be none other than the pilot that picks her up in Resident Evil 4, because as I mentioned in another video, there's potential for that pilot to become the agent character from Resident Evil 6, making the agent an actual canonical character. So if they go in that route, then maybe the pilot in Resident Evil 4 remake ends up becoming the agent and therefore the first member to sort of join Ada in this type of establishment. But I would really love to see something like this happen because it would just give the mercenaries a place to exist. You know, like I said, the BSAA, that's where the soldiers go. The DSO, that's for the agents. But there's not an organization for mercenaries to exist. And so what ends up happening is most of these characters, they just go disappearing. Carlos and Jake are the examples of this. Ada's the only one that we have that just sort of gets to stick around, and that's because of her connection with Leon. So I would definitely like to see something like this happen. And then I think if it was to happen, there could be really cool potential for a Revelations 3 or something, you know, like that, maybe a new game to revolve around Ada's organization going up against the evil, corrupt mercenaries like Hunk and Jessica and Raymond from Revelations 1. I think something like that would be very fascinating. And another thing that could be set up with this organization led by Ada is that maybe they work alongside the other groups like the BSAA and the DSO. So Ada and her other fellow members could maybe go in as backup for the other organizations should they need it. So something like that could pose for interesting concepts. Obviously, Ada would go out and help Leon in whatever he's doing because they already have that connection. But then you could have something happen where it's like maybe Jake ends up crossing paths with Chris. And we'll see how that dynamic works out, given that the last time that they met one another, Jake had beef with Chris for basically killing his father, when deep down, I think Jake wanted to be the one to take his father out if anyone was going to do it. So concepts like that would be very interesting to see. We could see Carlos and Jill cross paths again. Like, there's a lot of stuff that could potentially happen if Ada's organization partners up with these other groups. So lots of potential right there as well. So there's just a whole lot of potential with what they could do with something like this. It would allow for older characters to make a return, and I just think it'd be neat. But what are your thoughts? Would you like to see Ada establish this kind of organization for mercenaries that want to fight against bioterrorism, along with fighting against the corrupt mercenaries that work for those organizations, and maybe even work alongside the other organizations like the BSAA and the DSO? Let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comments. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this one, and I shall see you all on the next one. See you then.